Hare Krishna, can you hear my voice? Am I audible? Is my voice audible? Okay, let's start. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravan Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have been discussing from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita titled Dhyana Yoga. I'll do a very quick recap of what we have seen till now. As we saw in the 3rd chapter, Krishna introduces the concept of actually not in the 3rd chapter, in the 2nd chapter only Krishna talks about Karma Yoga, where he instructs Arjuna, Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur mate sangosto karmani. Oh, Arjuna, you should be practicing your Karma Yoga in a detached way. Do not be attached to the fruits of your activities and don't be attached to not performing your duties, Varnashrama duties. But at the same time, towards the end, he glorifies the Sthita Pragya who is perfectly situated in Jnana. Therefore, in the beginning of 3rd chapter, Arjuna is confused and he asks Krishna, you have actually asked me to perform karma, but at the same time you have glorified Jnana. What do you exactly want me to do? You want me to practice karma or jnana? What do you want me to do? So Krishna says, look, yes, did I glorify jnana as being superior to karma? Yes, I did. But did I recommend you to practice karma? Yes, I did. So what is the explanation? Because even though jnana may be superior to karma, but not everyone is qualified for jnana. He says there are two kinds of people. Lokesmin vividanishta puraprokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Oh Arjuna, there are two kinds of people. Some people are qualified for karma. For them, karma yoga is recommended. Some people are qualified for jnana. For them, jnana yoga is recommended. You are qualified for karma yoga only right now, nishkama karma yoga. Okay. Because the qualification for jnana is yastu atmaratireva syat atmatrittascha manava atmanyeva hi santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. Only a person who is completely absorbed in meditating on the atma and one who is completely satisfied only in his pursuits of self-realization and has nothing to do with this material world, is not attracted to anything of this material world, he is qualified for jnana. And because you don't fall within this category, Arjuna, tasmat asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma paramapnoti purushah. Therefore, you should try to perform detached activity. Detached performance of karma yoga is what you should do. Now, what is the biggest obstacle to practicing nishkama karma yoga, detached work? It is lust, material attachments, wanting to enjoy materially. Because a nishkama karma yogi, even so, his anarthas are his biggest obstacles. So his anarthas in the form of lust, because he has to perform his prescribed duties being attached to the goal of liberation. But because anarthas are not gone, this lust will keep pulling him down and it may push him to perform activities for material benefit. So therefore, Krishna describes about lust in the second half of 3rd chapter. So basically in the 3rd chapter, he talks about qualification for karma and who should practice nishkama karma yoga and how lust is the obstacle for that. And then in the 4th chapter, he talks about how is Karma Yoga practiced. How, even though externally different people may practice Karma Yoga according to their particular situation in life, but when properly performed, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. But when this same Karma Yoga is perfectly practiced with the goal of attaining liberation with Brahman in mind, then naturally one attains that position. And how perfect practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga actually evolves into the stage of Jnana. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddhas kalenatmani vindati. When Nishkama Karma Yoga matures, naturally it leads to Jnana. This he establishes in the 4th chapter. Then in the 5th chapter, he talks about Jnana Yoga. And Jnana Yoga can be practiced in 2 ways. One is Grihastha Sannyas, another is Karma Sannyas. In both these kinds of sannyas, one has to be internally completely detached from material enjoyment. And a Grihastha Sannyasi, he remains in the Grihastha ashram and he externally performs his Nishkama Karma Yoga, even though internally he cultivates jnana. That person, Krishna says, it is an easier process because just in case if there is some impurities in the heart, by practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, it will become purified. This is better than Karma Sannyas. Karma Sannyas is when you give up your Grihastha ashram, take up to sannyas, leave the house, and meditate on your self-realization in the forest. But the problem there is sannyas itself cannot purify the heart. If in case you later find out that your heart was not completely purified, then the only means of purifying the heart of those material desires is your practice of your varnashram duties. But you have given up your grihastha ashram, and varna duties are practiced only in the grihastha ashram. So therefore it is a problem. So Krishna recommends better one practice grihastha sannyas than karma sannyas. So irrespective of what you practice, both of them mature into liberation. How it matures into liberation, he explains in the 5th chapter. Then towards the end of the 5th chapter, in the last 3 verses, he introduces Ashtanga Yoga. How the same liberation that one attains by practice of Jnana Yoga, either Grihastha Sannyas or Karma Sannyas, can be attained by practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga also. And Nishkama Karma Yoga is accepted to be a better path than Jnana Yoga, if for one who has that qualification. So then he starts the 6th chapter. In the 6th chapter, he defines what is sannyas, what is yoga, and how both of them are connected. How there has to be internal detachment to practice either sannyas or yoga. So sannyas means jnana yoga, yoga means ashtanga yoga for both of them, right? And then he says that this ashtanga yoga can be practiced at 2 levels. One is the level of yoga rurukshu, the early stage, and the higher stage is the yoga ruda stage. In the initial stages, when the heart is still has some material impurities or anarthas, one has to practice the Nishkama Karma Yoga in order to purify them. And at the higher stages, then when one reaches the stage of Yoga Ruda, when one has to primarily meditate on the Paramatma within, at that stage, one should give up practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga because it will distract one from continuous meditation on the Paramatma within. And then in the next section, long section, he describes about the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, how Ashtanga Yoga is practiced, and asana, dharana, dhyana, how one should meditate, and the symptoms of one who has reached the stage of yoga ruda, how his mind and senses are completely under control, and how by practice of such an Ashtanga Yoga one attains liberation. Everything in detail he describes, Krishna describes in the verses. Then, then Arjuna at this point asks this question that Yoyam yogas tvaya proktah samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim stiram. O Madhusudana, this Ashtanga Yoga about which you have been speaking about, in which you are talking about, equal vision. Suhrin mitrari udasina madhyastha dvesha bandhushu sadhushu apicha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. You spoke about seeing friends, enemies, neutral people, everything on the same level. I don't think this is very easy. This equal vision is not very easy, oh Krishna. Because the mind is very fickle. You are asking me to see Duryodhana and Yudhishthir on the same level. I think it's very difficult. So this Ashtanga Yoga that you have suggested, this yoga I think is very difficult to follow because the mind is very fickle. Chanchalam hi manak Krishna pramati balavad dridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. It is easier to control the raging wind than to control the mind, because the mind is very fickle, agitating, strong, and firm. So, because Krishna may say, but Arjuna, it is possible to control the mind. So Arjuna says, mind is very fickle. Krishna says, oh, but it is possible to control the mind by discriminating intelligence. It is possible. Krishna says, Arjuna says, oh, but the mind is pramati. Pramati means it agitates the intelligence. It agitates the intelligence. Intelligence say you should not do it, but the mind influences the intelligence by giving memories of past enjoyment. How you enjoyed it, how you enjoyed it. Think about it, like that. Mind pulls the intelligence also. Pramati. How can that happen? Because in the hierarchy, intellect is supposed to be superior to the mind. But Arjuna says, Balavat, because the mind endowed with the past impressions is very, very powerful. It will ignore the discriminating intelligence. Like that. And Dridam, even though you may sharpen the intelligence, but the mind will become like a firm piece of iron. How much ever sharp the needle may be, it will not be able to pierce a piece of iron. So therefore, tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. I am capable of controlling the raging wind. But he says, according to Srila Vishnu Jagadhakur, just like a raging wind which is raging outside cannot be controlled by your practice of pranayama. By pranayama, you can only control the small quantity of air that is flowing within your body. You cannot control the wind, raging wind that is raging outside. Similarly, you are asking me to control my mind. It's as impossible as that. Like that he says. Krishna says, asamshayam, no doubt. What you say is correct. Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Oh Arjuna, you are mahabaho. And you are kaunteya. So first he says mahabaho. So he says asamshayam, no doubt what you say is right. So he accepts that conclusion. He says, but even though a disease may be very serious, by taking the right medicine according to the doctor's prescription repeatedly, and after a long time, the disease does get cured. So Krishna says, yes, sometimes a very deep disease. Arjuna says, when the disease is very strong, it will not respond to the medicine. Krishna says, yes, what you say is right. But when, but even a deep disease, when you repeatedly take medicines for a long time, slowly, even that disease can be brought under control. Similarly, your mind may be very strong, but by constant practice, abhyasa, one can bring the mind also under control. And vairagya, by constantly and repeatedly staying away from the objects of sense enjoyment. Don't bring the senses in touch with the objects of sense enjoyment. Okay. So by that, it is possible to control the mind. Like that. And you are not an ordinary person, Arjuna. This kind of an argument is not expected from a personality like you. You are Mahabaho. Why is he addressing Arjuna as Mahabaho? Because you have defeated so many warriors in the battle, and you have even defeated Lord Shiva. Can't you defeat your mind? That is the meaning of Mahabaho. And he is addressing him as Kaunteya, meaning who is Arjuna, you are not an ordinary person. You are the son of my aunt. You are Kaunteya. So if you have any problem, I will come and help you. So why should you fear? So don't worry like that. So this is where our discussion ended last Friday. Before we continue our discussion further, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions based on whatever we have discussed till now, you can ask. Either raise your hands or type your questions in the chat box, whatever you feel comfortable. Anything anyone would like to share, ask, and okay. If there is none, okay. Yes, Sachi Pranam.
Prabhuji, please accept my apology.
Nallat Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, the shloka, Brahman, Havi, Brahman, that shloka is it is most frequently used by Mayavadis, And I was aware about this shloka long back, and then they were explaining in a different way. So, it's the most deluding verse in one sense. So they explain in a very different way, and our acharyas also will totally explain in a different way. So
Yes.
to convince others about our explanation with this shloka will be very difficult. No?
You think with other shlokas it will be very easy?
Few shlokas which are like they thought they are they can easily explain that their philosophy.
No, it's okay. See, the point is you can explain about bhakti to anyone only if they have sufficient sukriti. So if they don't have that sukriti, you may at the most give some explanations and shut their mouth. Only that much you can do, but we will not be able to convince them. So only when they accumulate sufficient agyat sukriti, only then they'll be able to understand the explanations of bhakti. Otherwise, at the most, we can shut their mouth by quoting, but we will not be able to convince them. So therefore, with such people, we don't have to convince. We don't have to get into that argument mode only. Better give them prasadam and be nice to them, befriend them, talk nicely to them, and talk about whatever is common between. Oh, you also worship Krishna, I also worship Krishna. How nice, very good. And then give them some prasadam. Here is some Krishna prasadam. Please take. That's all. And gradually, when they become nice, they become attracted to you, they develop some sukriti, then gradually they will be able to accept these explanations.
Okay, bro. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Ramacharya Prabhu.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I heard it, but I think I need some more guidance. So how that transition from chapter 5, where Krishna is saying that be grihast sannyasi, perform the Jnana Yoga, how that transition from there to get into Ashtanga Yoga, where he now asking that you leave it, and I'm kind of a little bit not 100% sure.
Because one can practice after Nishkama Karma Yoga. One may have an inclination for the path of Jnana, or one may have an inclination for the path of Yoga. So both are bona fide paths through which you can achieve liberation. So he has already described the path of Jnana. In the 6th chapter, he describes the path of Yoga. So the initial stage of Jnana Yoga, actually there are only two paths. One is the path of Jnana, another is the path of Yoga. So, and for both of these paths, the preliminary stage is Nishkama Karma Yoga. So the preliminary stage of Jnana Yoga is also Nishkama Karma Yoga, and the preliminary stage of Ashtanga Yoga is also Nishkama Karma Yoga. So after Nishkama Karma Yoga, one has two options, actually three options, either Grihastha Sannyas or Karma Sannyas or Ashtanga Yoga. So he has already described Grihastha Sannyas and Karma Sannyas in the 5th chapter. So he is describing Ashtanga Yoga in the 6th chapter. That is the explanation.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Prabhu. I think you talked about that. This is just a separate topic then, just separate process of attaining the liberation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Anything else? Okay. If there is none, then we will continue our discussion further. So Krishna says, Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. It is possible by Abhyasa and Vairagya. By proper practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, if you properly practice it regularly, you will be able to control your mind, Arjuna. But while doing that, you should also do Vairagya, which means keep the sense objects away from your senses. When you regularly do it, you'll be able to control your mind through practice of Ashtanga Yoga. Then he continues in the same point. So he says, Asamyatatmana yogo. Okay, just give me a second. Yeah. Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi pashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptum upayatah. So he says, me matihi, in my opinion, yoga dushprapah, that yoga is not possible. Asamyatatmana. Sam matlab samyak, complete. Yatatmana means, yata means to control, atmana means mind. Samyatatmana means completely control the mind. Asamyatatmana means one who is unable to control the mind because of improper practice and improper detachment. Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi. My dear Arjuna, in my opinion, for one who will not do this abhyasa and vairagya, and in that way control the mind, I don't think it is possible for controlling the mind. It is possible to perfect Ashtanga Yoga is not possible. Perfection of Ashtanga Yoga is not possible for one who does try to control the mind and practice by practice of abhyasa and vairagya. Avaptum shakyah, but it is certainly possible to attain the control of mind is certainly possible to attain, or perfection of yoga is certainly possible to attain. Vashyatmana tu yatata, by one who endeavors and controls the mind through abhyasa and vairagya. Upayatah, by intense practice of abhyasa and vairagya, certainly it is possible. So Krishna is not ruling out the possibility of attaining perfection through Ashtanga Yoga. Krishna is not ruling out the possibility. He says with proper practice and proper detachment, it is certainly possible. Okay. But because Prabhupada is very clear that yes, Krishna says that it is possible, but Prabhupada does not highlight it because Prabhupada knows the heart of Krishna. That Krishna also does not want to highlight Ashtanga Yoga. He is just describing Ashtanga Yoga, but he really wants to highlight Bhakti Yoga. So therefore, Prabhupada, whether it is Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, he writes about Bhakti Yoga only. Like that. So here Srila Krishna Thakur says, the Lord cites his own conclusion. Yoga is difficult for a person whose mind is not controlled by Abhyasa and Vairagya. Yoga or Samadhi characterized by stopping the mind can be attained after a long time by a person who makes effort with the mind controlled because of intense practice. Vashyatmanatu yatata shakyo avaptum upayatah. It is possible to attain it for if one practices this abhyasa and vairagya for a long time. So this is the conclusion. Arjuna says, oh, I think it's very difficult. Krishna says, it's impossible. Krishna says, no, it is possible. By proper practice and proper detachment, it is possible. That is what Krishna says here. But if one does not endeavor and to continuously practice, then it is not possible. Like that. Any discussion points, comments, questions? Anything anyone would like to share, ask, add? Okay. If there is none, we will continue our discussion. At this point of time, Arjuna has another question. He says, Ayati Shraddhayopeto Yoga Chalitamanasah Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kamgatim Krishna Gacchati. Oh Krishna, Kamgatim Gacchati. What is the destination of that person? Shraddhaya Upeto, who even though he may have faith, Ayatihi, he does not continue the endeavor. What is the destination of one who, even though he may have faith, he has faith in the Ashtanga Yoga. He wants to attain the perfection of Ashtanga Yoga. All of that is there, but Ayatihi. Yatihi means one who does prayatna, endeavor. Ayatihi, who does not do that endeavor, who is not willing to do that endeavor, who does not have sufficient determination to endeavor for such a long time. Why? Yoga Chalita Manasa. Because his mind has become unsteady and distracted from yoga because of lack of determination. Right? Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim. And because of that, he does not attain the goal of yoga, which is Samadhi. So what is the position of such a person? He starts yoga in all good faith. He starts yoga in all good faith. He wants to achieve the goal of yoga, but he is not able to. He is not able to muster sufficient determination to do that regulated practice day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. He's not able to do that. What is his situation? And because of which, if he does not attain the goal, so what is the situation of such a person? So here, Srila Vishwanath Thakur says, you have said that yoga can be attained by a person who endeavors through practice and detachment. You said abhyasena kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. But what if someone is not able to do that abhyasa and yoga and does not achieve the result? What will happen to him? So what happens to that person who does not endeavor, who does not practice, and he does not have detachment? There is no abhyasa, there is no vairagya, but he has faith in Ashtanga Yoga. what will happen? He puts in only a little effort. Ayatihi. Ayatihi means, literally it means here he puts no effort, but it's not that he puts no effort. He puts little effort, but not sufficient effort to control the mind and progress on that path. Okay. So, in a footnote, Srila Bhanuswami Maharaj writes, the prefix a in the word ayatihi indicates a little rather than no, as in a phrase like colorless porridge, which actually means porridge with insufficient color. Like that. So, colorless porridge means it's not sufficient color. So, he starts the practice of yoga with faith in the yoga scriptures and is therefore not an imposter. He's not an imposter. He has faith in the yoga scriptures. He starts it with all good faith, but he deviates from yoga for his mind turns to objects of sense gratification because of lack of practice and detachment. Because he is not focused in practice and detachment, therefore his mind gets deviated and it starts turning towards the objects of enjoyment. What results? Thus, he does not attain complete perfection. Aprapya yoga samsiddhim. He does not attain perfection. But he has attained some results since he has begun the first stage of progressing in yoga after aspiring for yoga. So the yoga rurukshu stage, he, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and a little bit he does. But then again, but he is not able to always pull his senses away from the sense objects that he finds difficult. So what will happen to him? What will happen to such a yogi? And then he continues along the same lines. Kacchinnobaya vibrashtas chinnabram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapati. Kachinna nashyati, does he not disappear? Chinnabram iva, like a fragmented cloud. Sometimes, there is a big cloud and those, when a wind blows, a small piece of that big cloud gets disconnected from it, and there is another big cloud here. Okay, so there is a big cloud here, there is a big cloud here, and there is a wind which is blowing in this direction. Okay, so a small piece of this big cloud gets blown off by this wind. Okay, this small cloud thinks, I will detach from here and I will attach here. Okay, so that I will be safe and secure. So this is the cloud of karma. This is the cloud of yoga. And in all enthusiasm, this small cloud, the Jivatma, detaches himself from karma and thinks, I will attain perfection in yoga. So eventually he gives up this karma and tries to attach to yoga. But in between, if the wind is too strong, this small cloud gets dispersed into small pieces and it gets completely dispersed. It never reaches here. So it has left karma, and before joining yoga, everything is gone. So he's neither in karma nor in yoga. Na garki, na gatki. Like that they say in Hindi. So what will happen to such a person? Kachin nobaya vibdas chinnabram ivanashyati. So does he not disappear like a fragmented cloud? Ubaya vibrashtaha. Ubaya vibrashtaha means the yogi who fails in both ways. Apratishthitaha, not having achieved the goal, and vimudaha, and bewildered, brahmanapati, about how to attain Brahman. He is completely bewildered by that. So, what happens to such a yogi? That's what he says. Does he become like Prabhupada says, does he become like a raven cloud? Like that. Like a fragmented cloud who detaches himself from karma with the aim of making it big in yoga, but eventually he is not able to make achieve that success in yoga also. What will happen to such a person? Will he get dispersed like a raven cloud, uh, being completely bewildered about the method of achieving Brahman, right? So he says, Kvachit indicates only a question. So he's asking him. Arjuna is not completely concluding. Arjuna is not telling, this is my opinion, this is what will happen. He's asking, will it not happen like that? What will happen to him? He is presenting his inquisitiveness. So he says, having failed on both sides, having given up the path of karma and taken completely to the path of yoga, and having given that up also, does he not disappear like a cloud which separates from the original cloud and does not become another cloud, but instead disappears in the middle of the sky? Will that not happen to this person? So this is Arjuna's genuine doubt, because Krishna first only he told that Arurukshor Muner Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate Yoga Rudasya Tasyeva Shamak Karanam Uchyate. In the beginning stages of yoga, one should continue to practice karma, but in the later stages of yoga, one should give up karma. So if he gives up karma, but does not with great determination pursue the later part of yoga, he is neither a karma yogi nor an ashtanga yogi. What will happen to him? Okay. The difficulty is that from having entered the path of yoga, one develops a desire to give up enjoyment of material objects. And because of lack of real detachment also, has a desire to enjoy those objects. So this is the situation of our sadhakas also. Veda dukkatmakam kaman parityage api anishwaraha, Krishna says. And he talks about Vaidhi sadhakas. He says, Veda dukkatmakam kaman jata shraddho matkatasu. He has developed faith in the path of bhakti. Nirvinna sarva karmasu. He has developed detachment from the path of karma. Veda dukkatmakam kaman. He has very nicely understood that yes, sense gratification will lead to suffering. But parityage api anishwaraha. But he is not always able to say no to sense gratification also. Many times he succumbs to that sense gratification. So what will happen to that person? Because he has given up karma, accepted bhakti, but in bhakti also he is time and again he succumbs to material sense gratification. What is the result of such a person? So here he is asking that for the yogi, what will happen to such a yogi? Because he has not developed real detachment, he succumbs to those desires to enjoy those objects. But he says that because of not doing activities leading to Swargaloka and also not completing the practice of yoga leading to liberation, he attains neither Swarga nor liberation. If he had at least practiced karma, he would have at least achieved Swarga. Now he will not attain Swarga also, because he wanted to pursue liberation. But on the path of liberation, he gives that up also, so he will not attain liberation also. At least he should have stayed in the path of karma, at least he would have achieved Swarga, like that. So thus, becoming bewildered in the method of attaining Brahman, not having achieved the goal, does he get destroyed or not? This I ask you. Right? Like that. So, what is the position of such a person? Arjuna continues. Yetanme samshayam Krishna chetum arhasya sheshatah tadanyas samshayasyasya cheta nahyupapadyate. Chetum arhasya sheshatah. You should fully destroy Yetadme samshayam, this doubt of mine, for O Krishna. Cheta nahi upapadyate. No one can be the destroyer. Asya samshayasya twadanyah. Twadanyah. Except for you. Asya samshayasya cheta nahi upapadyate. No one else can be the destroyer of this doubt except for you. Oh, Krishna. Like that, Arjuna asked this question to Krishna. Now, Krishna is going to answer this question. But before that, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share as add, you can please go ahead. Any quick discussion points, questions, comments? Okay. If there is none, then we will continue our discussion. Let's see what Krishna says in response to this question. Krishna says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschit Durgatim Tata Gacchati. O Partha, O Arjuna, Na eva tasya vinashaha vidyate. Such a person does not meet with destruction. That does not happen. Iha amutra. In this life or in the next life, such a person does not meet with destruction. Kalyanakrit, one who has done the auspicious work of yoga, one who has taken up to this path of yoga, nahi kaschit durgatim gacchati. He definitely does not meet an unfortunate end. Oh my son. So this is very similar to Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajan apakvo atapate tato yadi tatrakva vabhadram abud amushyakim kovarta apto abhajatam swadharmatah. Narada Muni telling to Vyasadeva, if someone in all good intention with good faith gives up the path of karma and accepts the path of bhakti, and having accepted the path of bhakti, due to lack of determination, he gives up that path of bhakti also. And he has already given up karma also. So Krishna says there is no loss because, if he, without achieving prema, if he gives up his life, then Krishna ensures that the person continues from where he left off. Let's say from Nishta or Ruchi or Anarthanavritti, wherever he left off, he can continue his practice from there. Krishna ensures that. But if due to lack of determination, he gives up bhakti in between, then what Krishna does? What is that? Navai jano jatu katanchana brajen mukunda sevi anyavadanga samsritim smaran mukundangri upaguhanam punar vihatumicchen rasakrabhojana. But if he, due to lack of determination, if he gives up the process of bhakti in this life only, then Krishna says that such a person, Krishna takes personal responsibility of that person and somehow tries to remind him of his good old days in the path of bhakti so that he becomes attracted again to come back to bhakti. So Krishna takes that personal responsibility to pull that person to his lotus feet, like that. So Krishna is telling here, this is the same, somewhat similar thing he is telling to Arjuna about Ashtanga Yogi also. He says, Partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate. Oh my dear Partha, such a yogi does not meet with destruction in this life or in the next life. One who has started this auspicious path of yoga, he does not meet an unfortunate end, my dear son. Like that. So he says, he does not have destruction in this life or the next. Having performed yoga, which gives auspiciousness, he does not attain a destination of suffering. That does not happen. Okay. So then he does not attain destruction, means then what does he attain? How does Krishna reciprocate with such a person who has given up karma, accepted yoga, which means he did have qualification for yoga, but after some time, due to lack of determination, he gave up that yoga. So, and he did not attain perfection of that yoga also. So, what will Krishna do? So, Krishna says, Prapya punyakritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto vijayate. He says, Prapya punyakritam lokan, after attaining the worlds of the pious. Okay. Ushitva shashvati samaha, and living there for long years. Yoga brashtaha, the fallen yogi, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Abhijayate. He is born in the house of the religious and wealthy person. Because that gives, when he takes birth in the house of either a religious person or a wealthy person, in the religious person, he will be encouraged to pursue spiritual pursuits. And in a wealthy person's house, he does not have to struggle for basic things. He will get it very easily. So he can actually pursue his yoga from where he left off. So here he says, Krishna says, Srila Vishnu Jagadakur explains, then what destination does he attain? He says, he attains the planet where those who perform Ashwamedha sacrifices, they go. Punya Kritan Lokan Prapya. The result of yoga is both liberation and material enjoyment. Right. So in this case, the imperfect yogi, having the desire for enjoyment, having fallen from yoga, he attains material enjoyment. On the strength of his yoga, he attains material enjoyment and spends sufficient time there. Okay. The perfected yogi, however, because of not having material desires, he attains liberation. But the imperfect yogi who cannot give up these material desires, actually he attains those material desires, enjoys those material desires, and he says, and then comes back to take birth in Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe. But he says, some yogis, even though they are perfected, by fate have a desire to enjoy, and then they accept such enjoyment. So the examples of are Kardama Muni and Saubari. Saubari, because of offending Garuda, he develops that desire to enjoy. So such fallen yogis, after enjoying materially, are born in the houses of those performing proper religious acts, Suchinam, and who are wealthy merchants or kings, Shrimatam. Okay, so they take birth in their house so that they can continue from where they left off. So why do they go to Punya Kritam Lokan? Because they did develop material desires. So those material desires are also fulfilled in Punya Kritam Lokan. And then Ushitva Shashvati Samaha, spending there sufficient time. Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Abhijayate. They take birth in the house of religious and wealthy people. This is if he has given up yoga after practicing it for a short while. But if he has practiced for a long time and then given up that yoga, then what happens? He says, Atava yogi nameva kule bhavati dhimatam etad vidurlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. He says, Atava, or if he has practiced a long time, dhimatam yoginam kule bhavati, he is born in the family of intelligent yogis. Yadidrisham janma, such a birth, durlabhataram, it is more difficult to obtain. Etadhi loke, in this world, this is more rare than the Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe kind of birth. That is more easy. This kind of birth is very rare because It is very rare that those who have accepted the path, first thing, those who give up karma and accept yoga, the percentage is very less. And amongst those who accept the path of yoga, those who continue practicing for a very long time is very less. So, therefore, such persons who attain this kind of birth, who give up their body after performing yoga for a long time, but not long enough to attain perfection, when they give up that body, then they take birth in the family of intelligent yogis. And such a birth is very rare, he says. So he says, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the destination of yogis who fell after doing a little practice has been described in the previous verse. This verse describes the different destination of yogis who fell after practicing for a long time. They are born in the families of yogis such as Nimi. Like that. Okay. Any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add? Okay. If there is no discussion points, we will continue. But one should see that this kind of a promise. Okay, there is one question up. Yes, Shamli Mataji.
So, Prabhuji,
Yes, bro.
Haribol, Shamlal.
Yes, bro. Yes, bro.
Dandat, bro.
Yes, bro. Dandat, bro.
You can hear me now clearly.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, this even bhakti is bhakti yoga only, no? So, the same principle holds true for devotees also, no?
Which principle?
That they will get birth in devotee families, or those who miss out.
Yeah, those who miss out, facilitation is promised for devotees, but facilitation through birth is not a promise for devotees by Krishna. So good that you brought out this point. For yogis, he gives this kind of a promise, but for devotees, Krishna definitely says, Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. Whatever you lack, I will provide. Whatever you have, I will protect. But that Yogakshemam can happen through birth in devotee families also, but it need not happen through birth in a devotee family also. So this is not something which Krishna promises for devotees. So neither does he promise a devotee child for devotee parents, nor does he promise devotee children, devotee parents. This is not this is not a confirmed promise. Krishna may facilitate through parents also, but Krishna may not necessarily facilitate through parents also. This we see in our life also. So this is not necessarily a promise that Krishna gives to devotees. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Okay.
No,
Fine,
if you
fine.
have a follow-up question, you can please ask.
No, I think I'll just think over it and probably later on get on it, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Let me. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
Yeah, you can please think about it, and you can ask the question even before the session ends also if you want to follow up on this.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share? Ask. Okay. If there is none, we will continue our discussion. Okay, there is one question not relevant to the topic that we are discussing, but is it possible to have more than one Bhagavad Gita session per week? Well, all the days the slots are filled. Saturdays, Sundays, I have other uh, uh, Saturday, Sundays, I have other commitments. So practically there is no time slot free for one more Bhagavad Gita session, because Monday, Tuesday we have Jaiva Dharma, Wednesdays we have Bhakti Aloka is getting over. We are starting a new course, Krishna Smarana Spurti. Thursdays is the private session for counselors and mentors. And Fridays Bhagavad Gita, Saturdays, Sundays I'm either traveling or I have some other commitments. So it will be difficult for me to add one more Bhagavad Gita session. Yes, Vahini Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Am I
Yes,
audible, Prabhu?
yes, Mataji.
Yeah. So, Shamlal Prabhu's question, I mean, this was my question too, because we are just superimposing this on Bhakti Yoga, like, mostly like when we hear this shloka, then most of the times we have heard explanation that it applies to Bhakti Yogi also. So even I was a little confused that mostly we say that, the yogi who cannot finish their bhakti. But then, his question brought out something in, my mind, like your answer, what you said, that sometimes, bhaktas are not even bothered, like, they ask for birth in, birth after birth, and even in lower species, they don't mind, they're not asking for a higher birth anyways. So does it relate to, because bhakta is not aspiring for, so I mean, are
Of
you
course.
getting?
Yeah, I understand your point.
Yeah.
Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kita Janma Hao Jata Tuva Das Bahirmukha Brahma Janme Nahi Mora Ash. So he says that, okay, even if you want to, if let me at least take birth as an insect in the house of a devotee, but let me not, even if I have to turn my face away from Brahma, away from Krishna, I don't even need the birth of Brahma, like that. Yeah, that mostly refers to the mood of the devotees. But we are talking about how does Krishna facilitate. So,
Okay.
So for yogis, so this may seem like, yeah, how is it? This is very unfair. Even for yogis, Krishna is facilitating through favorable birth. But for devotees, so the answer is that for yogis, he facilitates only through favorable birth for yogis, but for devotees, he has more than one way to facilitate. He facilitates in multiple ways, and he facilitates personally also. So therefore, it's not a cause of concern for the devotees, and it is not that he will not facilitate through birth. He may facilitate through birth in a devotee family also, but that is just one of the ways of his facilitation, and he may choose other means of facilitations also. I will give one example. And why Krishna does that? So this one question was asked to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur by one of his disciples. So he asked, my dear Guru Maharaj, it is seen that many very exalted devotees seem to take birth in very unfortunate families. But they are very clearly exalted. How do we understand this? So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur says, Krishna personally orchestrates this in order to show that bhakti is not dependent on high birth.
Right.
So therefore, bhakti is ahaituki. So one does not need a high birth to practice bhakti. So in order to show that many times Krishna makes some very exalted devotees take birth uh, in in families which. So I recently gave a class in Chopati on this topic. Actually, it was exactly this topic. Uh, is does Krishna guarantee devotee parents to a devotee child and devotee child to devotee parents? Is that a guarantee anywhere Krishna gives? The whole topic of Bhagavatam was this. I will share that link of that Bhagavatam class in
Okay.
the group.
Yes.
So those of you who want to hear it, you can hear it. So I give all references are there, and I will share the notes also. Whatever notes I prepared for that class, I will share that notes. You can go over the notes and you can
Yes.
go over that lecture also. So that will give a lot of substantiation for um, this topic.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anything else anyone would like to share as hand? Yes, Ramacharya Prabhu.
Oh,
Yes.
so hearing chapter 4, 5, and 6, and
Mhm.
also some of the references that we get from Upanishad,
Mhm.
Krishna does talk about his impersonal feature and then Paramatma, and
Mhm.
for sure Bhagwan realization. Bhagavatam also
Mhm.
says Brahmameti, Paramameti, Bhagwaniti Sabdati. But
Mhm.
I personally think, please don't take me in a wrong connotation. But the point that I'm
Mhm.
trying to make is that Prabhupada also writes in the purport that these are the transcendental paths. But
Mhm.
in our ordinary dealing, Brahmada
Mhm.
Gauriya Sampradaya follower, they take it a little
Mhm.
bit harsh, in a very harsh way.
Mhm.
The Brahman and Paramatma, approach. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I'm not trying to say that I'm changing my mind or anything like that. The point that I'm trying to
Mhm.
make is that we might not need to be so harsh about those
What do you
concepts.
mean by being harsh, bro? Can you please explain a little
Like
bit?
in a very simple language, we very frequently end up criticizing Brahmanwadi. I'm not using the word Mayavadi. I'm using the word Brahmanwadi. People,
Mhm.
but that's a gradual process. I mean, somebody
Yeah.
who is meditating on the Brahman, they have a higher
Mhm.
chance that they will, like the ladder that we are talking about, they will be worshipping Paramatma and then end up becoming, again, Bhakta. So the point that I'm trying to make, what is your understanding? How you would like to harmonize these three, understanding, and how as a Brahmada Gauriya Sampradaya we should approach this type of discussion? That's the thing I wanted to
Yeah.
bring. And
Actually, when Bhagavatam says Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdate, so um, it's we cannot criticize. So criticism is not a choice, and the Shastras do not criticize, nor do the Acharyas criticize. It is not a criticism. So actually, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are one entity only. It is one personality, Bhagavan. When he is seen from a very long distance, very far away. Here, far away means um, very far from bhakti. When someone is very far from bhakti, with very little bhaktionmukhi sukriti, if he sees the absolute truth, he looks like Brahman. And when he develops little more sukriti, so Brahman means what? His perception of perceiving the absolute truth without any form, without any name, no energies. This is actually Brahman feature. When he progresses little further on the path of bhakti, he develops little more agyata sukriti, then he comes to the stage of then he comes to the stage of Paramatma understanding, And what is Paramatma understanding? Paramatma realization is accepting that the absolute truth as form, accepting that the absolute truth as energies, accepting that the absolute truth has activities, but he has only material energies to regulate this universe, and he has his activities are only with respect to regulating this universe. So that is Paramatma level understanding. The so that is little bit higher if he has little more Sukriti. And if he has complete Sukriti, which matures into faith, pure devotional faith, then he comes to the stage of realizing the Bhagavan feature, where one is able to understand and accept the absolute truth to possess name, form, qualities, pastimes, and not only pastimes with respect to regulating this material world, but also pastimes in the loving pastimes in the spiritual world with his devotees. So that is actually Bhagavan realization. So when the scriptures talk about people, sometimes they use the word Muda. Avajananti ma Muda. Manushim Tranumashritam. So, this is not even talking about, so this is talking about actually people who do not accept the personal form of the Lord at all. Such people, he is not even Brahmavadis, even Mayavadis, when the scriptures call them Muda. What does it mean? If you see, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baldev Devbhushan translate this Muda as unfortunate people. The word Muda is used in a compassionate sense. Oh, how unfortunate. So they are Muda. Muda means unintelligent. Unintelligent means they cannot understand they cannot understand because of lack of Sukriti. So, and then on the other hand, Mahatmanastu Mampartha Daivim Prakriti Mashrita. So it says Mahatmas, on the other hand, Mahatmas take shelter of the Daivi Prakriti. They are devotees. And how do they explain the word Mahatma? They say Mahatma means very fortunate. So, where question of becoming harsh and critical. If you are fortunate, someone is unfortunate, where is the question of being proud and critical? There is only question of compassion. If someone is not able to understand at a level that you have, and we are able to understand purely because of mercy, so then where is the question of being critical? We don't criticize. Actually, we try to understand that yes, because of lack of Sukriti, they are not able to understand. And that Sukriti comes only from mercy. I got mercy, I could understand. They did not get mercy, they could not understand. Then there is a question of criticism. There is no question of criticism. So no one should criticize. So that is my understanding, and that is our Parampara's understanding also. Even when Prabhupada calls them fools and rascals, it is in a deep mood of compassion. Prabhupada cried for them. It was not in a critical sense. It was in a mood of compassion. And that should be our mood also.
Yes, Prabhu, I totally align with your approach. You might not hear more in India, but outside, people criticize Shankaracharya, and I get just why. I mean, you have to understand his contribution.
Yes.
And all of that. So,
if you have to understand what was our Sampradaya Acharya's opinion about Shankaracharya, we have to read Jaiva Dharma in the 2nd chapter. Literally, in the conversation between one sannyasi and one Gaudiya Vaishnava Babaji, so the sannyasi asks him, what do you think of Shankaracharya's Advaitavad? As soon as he hears the word Shankaracharya, immediately that Babaji offers prostrated obeisances, just hearing the name of Shankaracharya. So that is the kind of respect that we have for the contribution of Shankaracharya. So, so those who understand Shankaracharya's teachings to be all in all and think that there is nothing higher than that are also misunderstanding his teachings. And at the same time, the Vaishnavas who do not understand the very monumental contribution of Shankaracharya in driving away Buddhism are also misunderstanding his contribution and are unnecessarily criticizing. So our Sampradaya Acharyas have been very much respectful towards Shankaracharya's contribution in the overall scheme of things. Actually, Buddha, Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were all involved in one mission only. Each one doing their own part. So that has been the understanding of our Sampradaya Acharya.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. You explained very nicely, Prabhu. The way you present the fact, it's very coherent and logical. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare
Yes.
Shyam Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu, this is the question again regarding the rebirth of Vaishnava. There is a devotee. If he is not able to go to Goloka, then you said that he may not necessarily get devotee parents.
Yeah. Yes.
But then so whatever he has practiced in the previous life, that doesn't go waste. So he has to be given an opportunity to continue from the same place where he left, isn't it?
Correct.
So for that, isn't it necessary for him to get Vaishnava parents?
Not necessary.
That
No, he may get a Vaishnava mentor. He may get Vaishnava friends. He may take birth to non-Vaishnava parents close to a temple which has Vaishnavas. So Krishna's reciprocation is not stereotyped. Krishna's facilitation is not stereotyped. Not that he will not get Vaishnava parents. He may very likely get Vaishnava parents, but that is not a guarantee. Krishna's guarantee is, I will take care of you, is guaranteed. But Krishna's taking care of devotees is not stereotyped. Krishna may take care in any way he wants. So he gave bhakti to Narada Muni and immediately took away his mother also. So his facilitations are not stereotyped. So therefore, yeah, that kind of a guarantee for protecting is there. Guarantee for facilitation is there. But specific guarantee that I will facilitate through devotee parents, that kind of a guarantee is not there for devotees.
Okay. So he may be born in the Shudra family also?
Yeah, there are so many Vaishnava Acharyas. And Krishna purposefully does that to show. Yeah, Shyamanand Pandit, Vamshidas Babaji Maharaj, so many of them took birth in not so great non-Vaishnava families only. They took birth. Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself took birth in a family of Shaktas. So he practiced Shakta Dharma for a long time, then tried some Christianity, tried some Islam for a while, and finally took up to practice of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So yeah, there are so many examples in our line where, and not only our Vaishnava line, in the other Vaishnava lines also, so many examples of very great devotees who took birth not to Vaishnava parents. And there are many examples of devotees who took birth to Vaishnava parents also. So there are both examples there.
But these great devotees who took birth in a non-Vaishnava family, they were probably empowered, or they were sent for a particular purpose. It looks like there's all these, like Haridas Thakur or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. No, I'm talking of the normal, because see, when a Vaishnava leaves the body, it's a good chance he might be remembering the, Lord. So, so Antakale Chamaya. So that where does that promise goes then? Then he cannot be, be again born, and again he has to. So therefore, I was thinking whether he gets a chance at least to born in a devotee family, because he has practiced devotee.
No, we think only that way one can be facilitated. That is just one of the ways. Krishna promises facilitation. So whether it comes from the family or from some other guru or from some other Vaishnava friends, Vaishnava classmates, how does it matter? So, so the point is, I am not telling that Krishna will not facilitate. Krishna 100% guarantees facilitation. But why what I say is, he does not promise that I will facilitate only through birth. So that promise is not there. I mean, you can search for it in the scriptures.
I mean, some lecture of Srila Prabhupada, not very sure though, where Prabhupada mentions that they get a chance to be born in a aristocratic family, very wealthy family.
Correct. That's what that is in Bhagavad Gita, that refers to the yogis. That is what we are reading, right? Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Bijayate. That is for otherwise, if you literally take that, then you have to take the previous line also. The previous line says that Prapya Punya Kritam Lokan Ushitva Shashwati Samaha. Then does it mean that devotees will also go to Swarga and enjoy there for a very long time and then take birth in the house of a wealthy person or a religious person? That is, no, not necessarily. It is not like that. So that is not a guarantee for devotees. I will share that lecture in the group. I mean, after our session is over, I will share that Bhagavatam class. You can, and I will share the notes of that class also. You can go through all the references in which I have exactly addressed this point only. Is that a guarantee that Krishna gives? Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Anything else? Anything other than this question? Because that I strongly recommend that you go over that session, and then next time when we meet, you can, if you have any further questions on that topic, you can we can discuss on that. Okay. If there is none, then we will continue our discussion. So Krishna has told, if someone has practiced for a short while and gives up that yoga because of lot of material desires, then for fulfillment of those desires, he goes to the Swargaloka, enjoys for a long time, and then takes birth in the house of a religious or a wealthy person to continue from where he left off. But if he has practiced for a long time and then dies without achieving perfection, then he takes birth in the family of intelligent yogis. And such a birth is very difficult to attain in this world. Then, after getting that birth, then what happens? So he says, Tatratam buddhi samyogam labate paurvadehikam yatate chatato bhoyaha samsiddhau kurunandana. So he says, Tatratam, in those two situations, labate paurvadehikam, he attains the state of his previous birth. So wherever he left off, his state refers to his state of whatever level he had reached by his practice of yoga, he reaches that state. Buddhi samyogam, along with faith in Paramatma. Tato bhuyaha samsiddhau yatate, and he again strives for complete perfection. O Kurunandana, O son of the Kurus, like that. So in those two situations, he attains the state of his previous birth along with faith in Paramatma and strives again for complete perfection. So when he gets that birth in that house of intelligent yogis, he gets to practice from where he left off, and he strives to achieve perfection from there. So here Srila Vishwanath Thakur says, in these two types of birth, he attains the state of mind of his previous life with faith in the Paramatma. Then what happens? Purvabhyasena tenaiva kriyate hyavashopi saha jigyasur api yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Saha, that person, kriyate, he is attracted. Now that he has taken birth, he has taken those favorable births, and he gets attracted, his mind gets attracted to the path of yoga. And then after getting attracted to the path of yoga, he is attracted to tenaiva purvabhyasena. He is attracted to that very same previous practice. Tena eva purva abhyasena. Avashopi, even against his will, like a child, as a child, he wants to play, but somehow he gets attracted to yoga. When he grows up as a young boy, he wants to play. He wants to run around. He wants to do many other things that a boy of his age may want to do. But somehow he's getting, even unwillingly getting pulled to the path of yoga. He's wondering what's happening. Then he becomes jigyasur api yogasya. He becomes inquisitive about yoga. And shabda brahmati vartate. And he surpasses the materialistic path of the Vedas. So instead of getting attracted to the path of karma, directly he gets attracted to the path of yoga. So no longer he is attracted to the path of karma. So such a person may directly take up to yoga instead of practicing karma. And when a qualified guru observes him, evaluates him, and sees that yes, he is now ready to practice yoga, then he recommends him the path of yoga. Right? So this is what happens. So attracted by his previous practice. Previous practice means practice in the previous practice in the previous lifetime. He becomes inquisitive about yoga and surpasses the path of Krishna. Just give me a second. I will just open. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So he says, okay. Yeah. Attracted by previous practice, he becomes inquisitive about yoga and surpasses the path of karma mentioned in the Vedas. But this time he remains fixed on the path of yoga. He does not get distracted like last time. This time he stays fixed. Like that. Then he says, Prayatnadyatamaanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishah aneka janma samsiddhas tato yati param gatim. That yogi too, unlike before, the previous lifetime he got distracted. But unlike that previous time, prayatnadyatamaanaha, he strives with full effort this time. And when he strives with his full effort, which means abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate, with lot of abhyasa and vairagya, then what happens? Samshuddha kilbishaha. He becomes purified of all his faults. And aneka janma samsiddha. And reaching full perfection after many, many births. Tato yati param gatin. He finally attains the supreme goal of liberation. So in this way, the question asked by Arjuna was, if someone gives up karma and accepts yoga, and eventually because of lack of determination, he gives up that yoga also, what is his destination? Will he completely get destroyed, not perfecting karma also, not perfecting yoga also? He says, no, that will not happen. He will be facilitated in his next birth. He will be facilitated to take birth in the family of Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, or Kule Bhavati Dhimatam Yoginam Kule, the family of intelligent yogis, from where he will get naturally attracted to the path which he had practiced before, and by that attraction he will endeavor with more intensity, and this time he will attain liberation. He will attain liberation aneka janma samsiddha, after many, many births. So it's not like easy. Even the path of yoga, it takes many births to attain perfection. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, the cause of falling from the path is lack of effort. That has been mentioned before. Though he has faith, he puts forth little effort. Ayatihi. It has been mentioned that the fallen yogi with lax practice attains the practice of yoga again in the next life. However, he does not attain perfection in one life also. That will be attained after many births when his practice becomes mature. Aneka janma samsiddha. After many, many births, he attains perfection. But he does not become lax in the yoga practice and cannot be called a fallen yogi. The perfection takes place only after many births of practice. That's why Kardama Muni says in the third canto, Bahujanma vipakvena samyak yoga samadhina drashtum yatante yatayaha shunyagareshu yatpadam. The third canto, 24th chapter, after seeing that Lord, he says, the yogis attempt to see your impersonal feature in solitary places by complete samadhi through yoga. But this realization is achieved only after many births. Bahujanma vipakvena. Okay. Thus, it is mentioned in this verse that he does not perfection in one birth. He makes great effort in this life in contrast to his previous life and burns up all the faults. But even then, he does not attain perfection in one life. After many lives, finally he attains liberation. Like that. Any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add before we wind up today's discussion? Anything? Okay. So if there is none, we will end today's discussion here. Thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. We will continue this discussion next Friday. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Paad ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.